Welcome to the Janine Deanna podcast. I'm Janine, and I'm joined by my best friend and the love of my life, Dana Lattery.
We're partners in both life and business, which, as you can imagine, has produced some incredibly valuable conversations from both a female and a male perspective. Through wisdom, vulnerability, and humor, we want to share what we've learned from our trials and triumphs. We hope to encourage and challenge you to live more intentionally in both your business and your relationships.
We also hope that you leave each episode feeling more joyful, energetic, and focused on your journey ahead. Thanks for joining us. Now let's jump on in.
Hello.
Hi, Janine. Welcome.
Hi.
You look better
Hi.
in your studio.
Can you?
What?
Can you? I can't hear myself.
Welcome to episode 4 of the Janine Deanna Show.
Hola.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? We don't speak Spanish, and this is not for the Spanish audience unless you speak English. Because the subtitles, I wonder if the subtitles, you know how Facebook sometimes does subtitles? I wonder if we spoke Spanish. Not that we know anything. Cerveza.
Nope.
Would it translate it, or would it just show up?
The only reason
is?
I know what cerveza is because I kept seeing it in at the weddings that we would go to.
Oh.
Hearing it, the destination weddings. That
Beer.
word was used the most. Cerveza.
Beer.
Anyways.
Speaking of weddings, we just shot our first one last weekend.
Yeah, we did.
A
Out at
weekend ago.
Azaridge.
Azaridge. So what is happening on this episode of the Janine Deanna Show?
We have had some really beautiful conversations leading up to a conversation we wanted to come on here and share with you guys, circling around ultimately growth, and kind of the changes that come about with growth, and really the people that we surround ourselves with, and really as cliche as it is, talking about how your vibe attracts your tribe, and that really taking a deeper look or deeper consideration into the 5 people that you surround yourself with, and that, you know, the cliche part being you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Really, really quick, I think it's interesting when we were talking about this, I was thinking, when that says you are the sum of, it's like, to me, that translated like I'm a piece of. The
Peace.
5 people that I spend the most time with.
So what I wanted to do here, just because I can, is Google the word some.
Ooh.
Because
Let's
I
hear it.
don't
Let's hear
believe
it.
some means a part of. I believe it means all of it. So it means the total amount resulting from the addition of two or more numbers, amounts, or items. So I think it's kind of more profound than just saying that you're a piece of or a part of.
Okay.
You are the entirety of the makeup of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So you're not
As in you're me, I am the entirety of all the 5 people. I am the entirety of all that.
You're the sum. The sum is the total amount resulting from the addition of 2 or more numbers, meaning 5. So if you're the sum of the 5 people, so you are
the embodiment of those 5 people.
Well, the sum, it's just there. It's definitions there. Also adding to the quote of, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. So,
yeah.
But coming back to that, because that is a nice little segue, when you said you're a piece of the 5 people that you hang out with, it could be true, because you could be sitting here saying, well, what if I don't want to be the sum of, which I think is the definitive statement, is you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. But if you don't want to be, and you just want to be a part of it, perhaps it's time to grow and change, and move past.
Hey, hence the topic of conversation here today.
That's why it was a great segue. So, because I sometimes feel this, and I'm like, not recent, but I have felt this in the past, where it's like when this statement comes up, or when I was proposed with the idea that show me your friends and I'll show you your future, I was disturbed and angry, and I was like, that's not true, because I knew some of my acquaintances at the time, and I was like, no, that's not true. I'm not them.
Yeah.
But then when you think about it, and by no means is this a podcast to say go ditch all your friends. It's a self-realization about how important your friends are.
Yeah. Well, just being
life
very intentional.
And your business, which is the
Yeah.
question here, is you aren't getting the right clients because you're not doing this. And we'll get to that, because I think it's super powerful, and it's just kind of like a reframe of the way that we think about doing business. So
I got to say, before you go further, it's juicy at the end, because when we were talking about it and just kind of like bringing everything together at the end, there was I was, even as you were speaking and we were kind of walking through the notes, some really cool aha moments about going deeper than the cliche of you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with. Show me your friends, show me your future. There's so much wisdom in this. And I'll leave it at that, and we can keep diving in.
So on a personal note or level, why don't you kind of reframe yourself?
Oh.
So you are the center of attention, but kind of start talking about our first point here.
Growing and changing. I feel, am I backwards here? Good.
You're
Growing and
backwards.
changing. But I do want to say that we've got 5 points that we're going to touch on. We're going to try to move through these in this hour together. Growing and changing. The evolution or the leveling up of self. And I feel like the first point being this focus on self-awareness around your own growth and the changes in your own life that you're experiencing, and really paying attention to when things are starting to feel out of alignment, or when things are starting to feel like the fit feels off, or there's something internally kind of coming up for you that feels like something has shifted here, something has changed, and this idea of bringing awareness to getting more clear about what has changed, whether it's I feel like you could literally do an entire episode on this, but to keep it kind of a little bit more surface level or tactical at this point, not everybody is going to keep up with you, continue to have the same pace, continue to see things the way you do. As we evolve and as we change, our perception of things, our tolerance of things, our taste in things is going to shift and change. And in acknowledging the shifting and the growth, I love to refer to it as growth. It really starts to shift the way that you tolerate different things in your life or that you experience different things. Not everybody is meant to keep up with you, right? As we grow and change, the friends or the people that we surround ourselves with. For me, if you start to notice any type of friction, or just uncomfortableness or that intuition, it can be very subtle, that intuition or things coming up where it feels like there's been a shift. That to me is that point of slowing down and paying attention to, is there growth that's happening here? Is there a change that has happened here? So just to take some time to acknowledge it. Do you want to jump in on any of this, babe, before I can keep going through the points? But
No, that's fine. I think it was kind of a realization I had a week ago. As you move through life and you move through life changes, like you look back even 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and it's like, where was I? What was I doing? And who are the people that I was
Facebook
hanging out
memories
with?
is great for that, hey?
Yeah, and so is your phone, because as you scroll
Yeah.
back looking for a photo, you sometimes pause at a place where you're like, oh man, when was that? And there's a date on it,
Yeah.
and you can go back and see. And I find I get a lot of satisfaction of going back, not on purpose, but accidentally, and looking at that stuff and being like, asking the question, who are the 5 people that I was hanging around with?
Yep.
What was my mindset? What was important to me at the time? And so I
Priorities,
encourage
yeah.
people right now to make your list and say, who are the 5 people that I spend the most time with? And in doing that, you can watch this and listen to it and walk away. But I encourage you, because it's powerful when you do this. And when you don't have to share this with anybody. You don't even have to share
Yeah.
it with those people. But for you to understand, and it's like, where am I in my life? Where am I in my business? Where am I with my family? And then ask the question, where are those people at with their family, their life, their business,
Yeah.
their job, their relationships with people in their lives, and how do they view those things? And there's just a deep reflection in there. And then, like Janine said and kind of alluded to, is like, not everybody's supposed to keep up with you, and not everybody can keep up with you.
Yeah.
And that's not to be arrogant or conceited in that statement, but it's like, it's just not, you eventually you're not for everybody. And as we'll kind of continue to chat here, but it's like, we are responsible for our changes. We're not responsible in that list of 5 people to go over there and say, hey Frank, I think you're gonna really need to make a life decision here, because I'm about to grow, and I need you to change to fit my new growth. Okay, and this isn't a negative thing, and it's also not an a-hole thing. It is simply, as you grow and change, if Frank's for you and if Frank's growing and changing with you, because he serves your growth, he serves your time, your season, your reason, whatever it is, then he grows with you. And this is super important, and I see it or hear about it a lot in guiding, because I get people in my boat talking all the time.
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh wow, my wife has really changed over the past year. Typically, it can be for the worse, but what kind of happens is that, and this is not that it's gender specific, but it's just what I hear more of. As the wife is like, yeah, she's into this like self-healing and helping and growing and whatever, and it's annoying. Well, why is it annoying? I mean, I get it. It can be time consuming, but then the challenge is, are you growing with her? Are you supporting her, or is she supporting your growth? And if she doesn't, and you don't grow together in 5
That's the
years,
key.
yeah, people
You're
are
not growing
like,
together.
well, it was great when we got married, but we've just grown or they've changed.
They've changed.
A lot of
That's the
people.
clutch phrase. They've changed. And I do think I just want to come back to when you were talking about going through the camera roll, I think it's really interesting to go back to periods in your life and look at photos and remembering even to specifically type in, 5 years ago, to go back to that time and to see where your life was, where your priorities were, what your business was doing, and who you had surrounded yourself with at that time. And I think that that's really interesting to be able to make the comparison, because oftentimes we don't know how far we've come if we don't create the space to go back and see where we were. And oftentimes as entrepreneurs, we're always in the hustle, we're always in the growth, we're always in the movement. And it's like you're doing yourself such a disservice, because you have to go back and check back into where you were 5 years ago, where you were 2 years ago, who you surrounded yourself with, because hindsight really does give you the perspective to be able to look back and say, I wasn't around a group of growth mindset people, but I also can correlate feeling that lack of growth in my business as well. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you were around, a specific person who you could go back and say, man, being friends with them like really propelled me to want to dig in a little deeper, or get a little bit more curious, or think outside the box, or take a few more risks because that person influenced you in that way. And you can say, I am here now because 2 years ago I had this friend. And I just think that it's a beautiful thing to go back and kind of look into where you were. You always throw me off when you put me on this camera, because it like pops up super huge on my screen.
Do you prefer
so
if it's just me and you and you're talking and I'm here? Does that
I do
help?
enjoy your face. I
Okay,
do enjoy
well,
your
so
face.
I'll just sit here and nod, and people wonder where you're coming from.
Where's the little voice?
So
Um,
a statement in the comments was, Cole said, "This is so true in trying to put together a wedding guest list." Isn't that
ooh,
absolutely profound? Because that is a point in people's lives
so
where you're
true.
having to really check in with what's important now. We talk about that under wins, but it's like
Yeah, what's important now?
who's important. And I think that I will take this little off topic rant, but in the wedding planning, and that's the industry we're in,
Yeah.
is like, I think there's a lot of invites that are
Obligatory.
yeah, that's a great word. Obligatory. You feel you have to do it, or someone will
Yep.
be offended. And I just look at over time and in growth in myself, and it's like, if you're not important or present is a good way to say it. If you're not present in my life right now, at this moment, our wedding is going to be a
Yeah.
really important thing for us, and that obligatory invite, it's just not there because
No.
of your last name, or because you've existed, or because of the blood type that's closely related.
Yep.
But that's kind of going into deepness of the summit of 5 people, because choose wisely.
Well, why should we choose wisely? Let's keep on moving.
Well, Janine, that's a
are you
funny
cool?
question. I want to put you on the screen by yourself, but you're gonna get all weird.
Oh, I gotta get centered. People are in our lives, point number 2, for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I feel like when I was thinking about this, we know like the reason is the shortest. They have a reason, they're in, they get what they want, they get what they need, and they move on because you no longer serve a reason for them. The season feels more nurtured to me. That's where maybe the reason isn't as definitive, but they're there for a reason in a season of time. There's this can be years, this can be typically it's more than, the reason is more definitive, like I said, and the season just feels like it's nurtured a bit more, takes a little bit longer. It could be the season of high school, it could be the season of when you're single, it could be the season of before you have kids, it could be the season of having children. Season is
The
very
drinking season.
the season where you drink and where
Well, it's
where you
important
don't.
because I've talked with a lot of recovering alcoholics, and they've lost a lot of friends because they're not in that season anymore.
Yep.
And what do you do?
Well, you move on.
Okay,
You move on.
Uh,
The
well, folks,
season is
that's it.
done.
Just move on.
Move on.
One thing I wanted to just jump in and add so you didn't feel super awkward by yourself was
Thank you.
the reason and the season, like you had alluded to, is not a definite time frame. And the reason can literally be 35 years, and the season can be 1 month. The reason can be 1 month, and the season can be 35 years. So don't think of those on a time frame that...
Well, what's the difference to you then? What's the difference for the reason or the season? Because we say that often, right? Like
I think
you and I have had conversations where things will happen and we'll be like, well, reason in a season, I'm not putting any more energy into that. There was a reason, there was a season, moving on. And we use them in unison. So if we're using this as a point, what's the difference to you?
So this came from my mom. This was something she always told me.
Yeah.
When and this isn't to sound flaky, like, oh man, I'm not putting energy into you, like, see you later. There's friends and people in your lives absolutely worth fighting for, and going to I just feel so blessed because I have such an incredible group of friends, like a core that is like it's super blessed. And if one of those friends, things changed or whatever, I would put the time and energy and sit down and be like, where are we at here, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of surface friends in that bigger group that that energy is not there. And so back to the reason of the season, I think you could say the reason is a more profound friendship, which I would then agree it would be a longer term, and I think the season would be a more shallow friendship on a shorter term. And I know I said don't put a time frame to it, but I think the reason will be a little more powerful in your life, and the season will be like a drinking buddy, like, oh man, I used to hang out with all these guys, but that's because we were going out every night.
Right.
Or I used to hang out with this guy all the time, but that's because I went golfing with them. And then we don't hang out anymore because I don't golf, right? So some people are super narcissistic in their friendships and their relationships, and once their needs aren't met, they peace out. And so
I think that's the important part, like as you're saying this, because the reason could be golfing. We are friends because we golf, or we are friends because we...
Or is that a season?
Well, you golf seasonally. Just kidding.
I don't golf.
But those who do that sport.
But think of season as like a more lighthearted, because you're not getting a reason out of it. And really, it doesn't actually matter how you want to depict those two. But I think the big thing is the ones who are around for a lifetime, that is a profound human being in your life. And there will be, because
those are few and far in between.
Few, if any, to be honest.
If any. Yeah.
And that's not wrong. And so where I came to this a short time ago was I felt over time, and I saw somebody post something about, oh, me and these couple guys have been friends since grade 2 or whatever. And even I had a very transient life, traveling with hockey and moving from town to town or city to city. And it always kind of bothered me. And I remember at high school graduation, at 24 years of age, I was like,
oh my gosh.
I was like, grad was pretty cool because everybody had been going to school with the same people their entire life. And I just met I was new. So I just met the
Yeah.
people, and I still had good friends out of that, and I still had fun. But then it was like quickly sent down to Michigan. Then I was in Vegas. Then I was in Providence. Then I was in Utah. And then I come back to Calgary, and I'm like, I don't have any friends from before. And keeping friendships with everybody far, far away is really hard to do.
Yeah, it's a lot of energy.
And this just perplexed me over time. And I was like, something's wrong with me, and I got to figure it out. And there could be something wrong with me, and there probably is. But what I took away from this was, no, the fact is, I cherished all those friendships, and there was a reason or a season, and part of my growth was them. And the fact that I was growing and changing, it doesn't, and this will take us to our next point,
Yeah.
but because I was growing and changing, it doesn't mean that they were bad people that couldn't keep up with my growth or change, right?
No.
Change doesn't mean I got better. It could have meant I got worse and they got better, right? Because they're changing and growing too.
Yeah.
And so as this evolution happens in everybody's lives,
Well, because people also grow in different, like you can be leveling up, but you're just not leveling up
Yeah,
in the
there's-
same direction.
there's different routes to the top.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's because I really want to nail this home, that it doesn't sound like you're better than your friends, move on.
No.
Right? At
And I
all.
do think that the idea of the reason or a season has supported me well in moving through relationships, in not harboring resentment, in not making it like something's wrong with me, or helping me reflect on things and not ruminating. Maybe it just really helps me to understand there is a reason and a season for this relationship. And if it has run its course, thank you, life. Thank you, friendship, for everything that I've learned and I was taught. And now I'll continue on the journey. And so it isn't that there was, it isn't always like an abrupt end or a whatever, something massively negative. There also can just be like a phase out of the reason or the season has kind of run its course, and it's not a lifetime type of commitment, which are very few and far between. So it just kind of runs its course and moves on. And I've loved being able to say that, oh, there's a reason and a season for this. And I think it's run its course. So we'll continue
And so-
on life's journey.
Also to know with that is like this doesn't mean that there's people like, oh, it's like we're not friends. Hey, it's Dana
No.
here, friends over. So I've moved on and I've grown. It doesn't change. It probably just changes their place in the pew from being in the
Yeah.
front to maybe
Oh.
the second or third row.
You know what I wanted to say to you too is that you had said with Frank that it's not like you're like, okay, Frank, I'm about to start, leveling up and changing. Are you in or are you out? I have experienced, and I can only speak to my own experience with this. Sometimes I don't even know I've grown until I start recognizing, like I spoke about in the beginning, the discomfort starts to happen. I'm like, oh, I'm not actually okay with that. And it's through the discomfort or the feeling of not being in an alignment in some way, which can be different for everyone, but it's through those feelings that I've recognized the growth. And so that's when I have to come back and say, this isn't what it used to be, or it feels different. Something's different. That's when I've recognized, oh, there was growth here on one part and maybe not the other, and not in a bad way. Again, that's what we're saying. It's just life and everybody's journey is different. And so it's in the recognizing of, that's how I've actually recognized some of my own growth, is through, experiencing that discomfort and then saying, okay.
So would you say when you're coaching women, this is like an aha moment, as far as, because I personally think this is a major, which we'll talk about, but it's like this roadblock in people becoming successful entrepreneurs, because but speak to that as far as experience with coaching.
Here's what
women.
I'm going to say to it, and I love that you bring it around to this. A byproduct of doing the internal work is those friendships start to fade out that aren't in alignment. So it isn't like, because we dig deep into talking about boundaries and talking about personal energy, fillers and suckers, and we're really getting into what's happening in to create homeostasis within ourselves as female entrepreneurs. And so when that's the focus, and when you're focusing on um, understanding what you need and then how to protect it, a byproduct of that work is that you no longer tolerate that which doesn't serve you. So sometimes women who I'll start to work with have this twisted a little bit, and they'll think, okay, I'm making changes in my life. I'm going to tell everybody, or I'm going to terminate some friendships, or I'm going to start, letting people know these are my boundaries. And they just get all like, I'm going to put my stake in the sand, and I'm going to, and that is the complete, in my opinion, wrong way to approach cultivating better friendships in your life, or understanding the current friendships and creating better healthy boundaries around them. Boundaries gets a bit of a bad rap, like you're bitchy, or you're what have you.
A negative rap.
It's negative. However, in my opinion, again, every single relationship in your life should have clear boundaries. You and I have to have clear boundaries. Us with the kids have to have, with our business partners. When boundaries are not
established,
you fall into an assumption of whatever the other person's expectations are, because you didn't say otherwise. So you just fall into assumptions. And so to kind of bring that back, the ability for us to create and cultivate better friendships comes as a byproduct of knowing our own needs first. So everything starts internally. It's the work that I do is all about self-awareness, because when you know what you want and what you want your life to look like and how you want to maintain the design of your life, when you know what you want that to look like, you then start looking outside of you and saying, what do I got to clean up a little bit? Or what am I not willing to tolerate anymore? Or how do I want to be nurtured? Or what kind of conversations do I want to be having? That comes after you doing the internal work to figure out what your needs are in the first place. And so does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. I think just to kind of top that off is, and having conversations with you, and also in some of the entrepreneurs that I've helped with, is they want the product or they want their vision to come true tomorrow, and they say, I just need help with a couple things to make this product or this idea come to light. And so I want your help. For me, I want your help with the marketing and the branding,
yeah,
and the imagery and all that stuff. And it's like, but then we started off, and it's like, who are the 5 people, a question I ask is, who are the 3 people that you want standing at the end with you when this goes well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if those aren't the 3 people, or 3 of the 5 people that you're in alignment with right now, then maybe we got to work on that before we even think about this. And the work that you get to do with them is just like this. It's like, everyone thinks they're here with their business, and it's like, but what's your why? What's your premise? Who's the people you're spending time with? Who are you? Do you know you? And it's like, well, I don't want to know that. I just want this business thing. And it's like, but because we're so closely tied to our businesses, you do your research on like Dyson, you do your research on Home Depot. I apologize if anybody has anything to do with Canadian Tire here, but personally, I think it's just a very blah culture. And I don't know, I mean, you could probably track that back to wherever, but like, there's a person who created this, that started this, and maybe they didn't know their why. And you look at Home Depot and the raving reviews they get, and it's almost annoying when you go in there and it's like, hi, can I help you? Hi, can I help you? And it's just because this is the culture that the person who started that, because wouldn't it be cool if all of our businesses franchised and blew up and was like, you're Elon Musk buying Twitter for $44 billion just because you can, right? Like, that's not going to suck if that's where your business goes. But at the beginning phase, these are great questions to ask. And I think that's really cool in the work that you get to do.
And I think that I love that you brought it up, because that's the entirety of why I started doing this. Because people were facing friction, female entrepreneurs specifically, facing friction in their businesses and can't figure out why they can't make progress. Why did they feel like they keep coming up against a wall, or they're frustrated? It's because you don't have clarity on who you are first, and what you stand for, what the soul of your brand is, what the strengths of your brand are, what the challenges of your specific brand are, how you want to show up and serve. I'm jumping ahead. Number 3. Oh my God, we got to keep going. Reposition. Number three, everything is temporary. Everything is temporary. Does this not just shift?
What was that movie you just did?
Well, my camera gets blurry, and so if I give it a little like that, comes back.
Everything is temporary.
Everything is temporary.
Even the blurry vision on your camera.
Life, our bodies, this body is temporary.
Success, failure, situations,
friendships, relationships.
And temporary could be the entire time. I mean, that's...
Again,
I like to Google words because we all know what temporary means, right?
Yeah.
But I always say there is power in the right word.
You do say that.
And understanding words is powerful. So temporary is lasting for only a limited period of time. It is not permanent. So deduce my logic. If you just said your body, your time on earth is temporary, then you could have friends that are in your life the entire time.
Yeah.
Still doesn't make them permanent because they too are temporary. You don't like that when I...
Well, I'm just trying to bring it back to the sense that, yes, temporary. For me, the purpose of this, when I'm looking at what's missing in my business, it's that we can tend to ruminate or dwell on things from the immediate past, or I get the oxymoron, things that we've just experienced, or going all the way back, or sitting in a situation that is in the present that is happening, and having this mindset around the fact that this is temporary, this too shall pass. If we want to go a little biblical there, this too shall pass. Having this understanding that what I'm sitting in right now is not permanent. And so the awareness to be able to say, how do I want to move through this? What do I want this to look like for me? And anytime situations have come in, I have been learning to really take a step back and say, this is not permanent. I'm gonna move through this. How do I want to move through this? Do I want it to consume me? Do I want to, and we can go down a whole rabbit hole with this, but even success, I love, is also temporary, because then it's on to the next. And then the failure is the feedback. What did I learn from this? How do I get up and get going back again? The present is fleeting. Do we say that? The present, it's
time is fleeting.
Yeah, time is fleeting.
So in your everything is temporary, understanding that your group of friends, your 5 people, might be temporary. So when we understand that,
Can we say that it sorry to interrupt you, but can we say like it is? Because at the beginning, when we're like reason and a season and a lifetime, the lifetime is the least. So it's very common. Let me say it like this. In my example of life, yours too, I believe friendships I feel like that sounds bad. There's temporary or seasonal friendships as we're kind of moving through the stages or growing.
Yeah, well, it's all temporary. But what we have to remember is that everything, time is fleeting. Yeah. This one is a little off topic, but it's also, the point of it in being in there is that It's not permanent. So change is inevitable, just like evolution.
Yeah.
Everything's always changing. And as everything is always changing, you don't get to the success point and be like, I've made it. You don't get to the failure point and stay there. And all the situations that you're in continue to change. But
Yeah.
with those people that are in you, around you, they could help some of those crappy situations be more temporary, and they can also keep those other situations less temporary. And I guess just kind of understanding that things change and it's okay. Friends may be temporary and it's okay, because that takes you back to the growing and changing aspect of you and the things that you
Exactly.
can control.
Number 4.
Yes.
Number 4 is false summits. We're bringing it back to a little bit of mountain. This has been a fascinating topic of conversation when we've talked about, I guess, because personally experiencing when you get to the false summit and you're like, oh, I'm here. And then you look up and see the real summit and think, I'm not here. I'm not here yet. And so the false summit is some people in our lives, some friends love the false summit, and that's good. That's good enough. They're more than content. They can say, I have succeeded because I got to that place. And then for some of us, it's like we're going to have a moment. And I loved the example where you were talking about Everest, where you don't just show up and climb the whole mountain in one climb, unless you're NIMS. But even him, you get to base camps and you got to acclimatize. You really have to acclimatize to that environment, and then you reach a point where you're like, okay, I feel strong, I feel good, I feel ready.
Your
And then you
body's
get to
you've
your
adapted to
body's,
the new norm.
yeah. And so then you're ready to move to the next summit. And then the same thing has to happen there.
Well,
You have to acclimatize.
it's not that you're moving to the next summit. You're moving to the next camp on
Sorry,
your
base
way
camp.
to the
Yeah,
summit.
yeah.
But that analogy of a base camp, it's like there's a climb you can do that takes you to base camp at Everest, and it's like 5,400 meters, taller than anything we have around here.
Yep.
And Everett's almost 9,000 meters. So there's still 335, 4,000 meters to climb in there. But a lot of people get to base camp, and I mean, if I got to base camp at that point or at this point where I am, it would be phenomenal. What happens there is every time you go up elevation, your body needs time to adjust. And so there's people on that journey from base camp to camp 1 to camp 2.
Right.
And this goes with your friends. It's like you might get to camp 1 and ready to go to camp 2, and there's a group that turns and heads back because their purpose or their reason was to help you get to camp number 2. And so what I always say in those situations is I look back and some people that I've worked for, and it's like I have no I have no bad feelings at all, because all I want to say is thank you for getting me to base camp, or thank you for getting me to camp 1, or thank you for getting to camp 2. They might not say the same thing on their end, but what I felt
But that's
was
not for us to own.
the frustrating part there was I'm growing and moving and I'm at a ceiling. And so it wasn't to turn around and say, hey, we keep using Frank, but it's like, hey, Frank, I've been working for you and this isn't changing and this isn't changing and you suck. Okay.
Right.
And then being bitter and staying there all the time and saying, Frank, you suck. And now blaming everything on Frank in my life and saying, well, I could do so much more, but I'm stuck with Frank. It's like, we're not stuck anywhere. Everything is temporary. So get out of there. And those moves, those gross out of those situations were scary. They were frightening. So maybe you have a 9 to 5 and you're like, my weekend is my fun job, or my evenings are, and you're dying in your job and you're like, I got to take the leap here and it's scary, or I'm growing past my job and I need to go find something else. Is it scary? 1,000%. Is it
Yeah.
scary sometimes leaving those friends who were your bosses that you worked for, and it's like, I'm going to
Yep.
lose a boss and a friend, because in their small mind thinking, they're not going to approve of me moving on, right? Which
Yep.
is kind of something we talk about here, is that the idea of trying to think where I wrote it down. Yeah, so I said at the beginning, it's like people, they'll move on you when you change. So they'll get aggressive and be like, "What's wrong with you, Janine? Why so you're going to fail. So you leave me, you don't work for me, you're going to fail. You're horrible." And then they'll slander you as you move on.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's really tough. But when you know that you've done it with integrity and you've moved forward because you know the calling that you've had and the growth,
Yeah.
and you've left the friendship or the friend/business, it's no ill intentions, because for the fall summit that they were at, they were stuck there saying this is the best view on the mountain.
Yeah.
And not everybody wants to progress past that.
Yeah.
But I had some new friends in my life, and it was like, oh, they gave me the wings to fly and to say, okay,
Yeah.
I can move past this. And I had friends, I remember in the first situation, who I'm not friends with anymore. I don't talk to them. But in
Yep.
that time, they were the people who, the Sherpas, the ones who helped me get to the next summit by believing in me and saying, you can do this. You don't need that. You 100% can do this. And it gave me the courage. And I was like, oh, because of the people that I had in my life, I could move past that and make those big moves. And now I just look back and I say, thank you. Thank you for everything you've taught. I learned so much in my time with you. Maybe I stayed there a year too long or not, but that's the reason. And it was major growth in me. And it's like, because I'm at this fall summit, or this point of camps on the climb, I can thank the people who got me to Camp 1 and Camp 2. And I don't look at it as using them, because I kept my morals intact. I kept my integrity intact as I moved through the process. So
Yeah. Well, we were kind of talking about that whole idea of like the pyramid, where, the higher up you get, the less surface there is, the less
for people, for numbers of successful people, for
willing to go all that way.
Yeah, there's everything in life tapers. I think of hockey. It's like at 8 and under, there's probably 12 billion kids playing in 12 billion leagues. But as you get to the NHL, there's 20 players on a team and 30 some teams, right? So like the more successful it gets, it just thins the herd. And it's like, all right, well, who's at the next level? Who's at the next level? And so as you go and grow with your business, remember, it does get a little lonelier at the top. And that base camp where there's 400 people there, celebrating, drinking, hanging out, having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And as you and your team of 5 decide to start climbing to Camp 1, the group is smaller, but the climb gets harder. But not everybody's going to get the reward of the actual summit.
Yeah. And not everybody desires the summit.
No, and
right?
that's fine.
And that's awesome, right?
And that's a thing to not get butthurt about it, where it's like, why won't they do? You're seeing it through your lens, and just.
Well, then that brings up my one of my favorite lessons that I've learned, is that it's not our job to project our expectations onto other people's actions.
Yeah.
Think about that with family, specifically in this incident with friends. But if you're getting, the term butthurt is so funny to me. You use it all the time. If you're being butthurt about the way somebody's doing or handling or moving through something, we have to step back and ask ourselves, am I projecting my expectations onto somebody else's actions? And very quickly we can see the answer to that question. And if you are doing it, you just have to stop. Like, that's not their filter, not the way they see life, not the way they need to do life. And it's also very much wasted energy of our own energy putting into other people's actions. So that like beautifully correlates again back to the growing and changing and not owning other people's summits. So Number 5, the last one that we have is branding your business. We could talk about branding all day long. It's been a hot topic for us talking. Dana's very good at branding, and I've been moving through some really beautiful changes, which is probably what's kind of ensued a lot of this conversation. But branding your business, we are, it is, can you hear that? How loud my stomach is growling? I'm so hungry.
No, I can't.
Yeah, so the branding. I kind of asked you where you wanted to go with this, and because there's so many places we could go, but this is kind of where everything is going to wrap up and kind of come together here. But branding, a lot of people get it mixed up, that they're like, it's my logo, it's my colors, it's the fonts I use. All of those are pieces of branding, but branding is ultimately every single touch point that somebody has with your business. Are you
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just writing something. I'm going to pop up.
Googling? Oh, you're writing.
Yeah, so talk about logos and how people think my logo is like, I remember when you were starting, well, I wasn't there when you were starting photography, but when you kind of were getting like kind of a big deal,
Specialized.
and the path that a lot of photographers walk through, and it's like, if I have a logo and I can throw that on my image, I've made it. Janine Deanna Photography, JDP, whatever it was back then. And I just remember seeing your 5 friends at the time, and it was like everybody was going through this of like, this is our branding. And it was like, no, it's your logo.
Well, there was no concept at that point. How should I say this? There was no concept at the beginning that my brand needed to be all these different touch points, and there needed to be a foundation of what I stood for or how I wanted people to experience what it is I had to give. There was such a shallow understanding of, trying to create the perfect logo. And what if I could look back and tell myself, like, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 22, and I'm 40 now. I think I've had like Frozen Pieces, I think, was the first name of my photography business. And I've gone through 800 iterations of a logo, of a name, and it evolves as I evolve. And if there was anything that I would have understood, or that I tell my, people starting out, if you're in this, like, and this is definitely off topic, but when you're sitting there thinking, I'm going to start this business and start this brand, that the logo is like, just do what fits right now, because it's going to last for a reason and a season. And then when you evolve, you get a new vantage point, you can see things clearer, then you make some adjustments, and then you do it again. And it's like this cycle of doing those things as you grow and change, your business grows and changes. So branding was at the beginning, a very shallow understanding of what it meant to have a brand. Now, so many years later into it, and to be fully transparent, I feel like I'm just cracking the code of what and probably because my business has changed. Let's be honest too. The business has changed so much in the last 2 years, really understanding the gifts that I have to give and the way that I want people to feel because of what it is I do. And so recognizing all these touch points, recognizing it's not something that I can figure out in a weekend, that it's ever evolving and ever changing. So I feel like I could talk about this forever, but.
So bringing it back to the idea of, being the sum of 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
In your branding of your business, and what Janine was talking about was the energy and attention people put onto a logo, which don't negate the importance of it.
That's right.
But understanding the brand and the fact that the brand, your branding is an emotion. So, and it basically shapes the entire experience that the customer has from we call them touch
point.
points, but
Yeah.
it's like, if you don't know what touch points are, it's like going on to, so Yeti, it's like the brand, it's the logo just says Yeti.
It's like
right?
every connection you have with a brand.
But the
visually,
brand Apple, it's my favorite brand. Why? Because it's the entire thing of like their website. It has this like this feel. When you click on a button, it does something that has a feel that emulates everything that they want you to know. And so we have a good point here about this. All makes sense from getting their packages, and I love just like opening up. The boxes come apart like this, and the film over top, and then I'm pretty sure everybody's petted their new laptop or iPhone,
their Apple Watch.
Yeah, and it's just like, like something so phenomenal. But that's a billion-dollar company who gets it, and they understand, and obviously they have the money now to do the research to get it.
Yep.
But ever since day one, Apple or Macintosh. What the heck is a Macintosh is an Apple, and what does that have to do with the product?
Computers, yeah.
Right. So when you're spending all your time trying to think of like how epically naming you can do your business, remember Nike. What is nothing to do with a shoe, right? Apple, Macintosh. What does that have to do with technology, or a computer, or everything that it's evolved into?
Right.
I don't know, to be honest. So maybe there's a prolific answer out there. But what you have to understand by that is I still have friends who don't have, not that everyone has to have an Apple, but that they don't get it, right? They're in the Samsung world or the Huawei or the whatever, and it's fine. And that fascinates my brain.
It does. You talk about it all.
And sorry to everybody out here who is with a Samsung or whatever. Probably a Samsung has way better technology in their phone, and it's more powerful in the 100 megapixel camera. But what's cool about that, and which is kind of get into the final thing that we talked about, it's you're not getting the right clients because you're not doing this, is the understanding that so your vibe attracts your tribe. Would we agree?
Yep.
We agree. So say your tribe is 5 people, the 5 people you spend the most time with. Fair enough. And I know this is an expansion as far as customers, but if your vibe attracts your tribe, and then your tribe, because it's the 5 people, is the sum, so you become the sum of the people or your tribe. So you are the sum of your tribe, but your vibe attracts your tribe. So essentially in this cyclical way, it makes you the king or the queen of your kingdom, and understanding that you control your destiny. Because of you, those 5 people are there.
Well, it's your choice who you surround yourself
because you're a
with.
victim of that. It's because your vibe attracts your tribe, and then your tribe is creates you. Right. So I know it's deep but think about it, because what's powerful here is Apple's not for everyone. And even at how in my opinion, superior they are, that's just not for everyone. And somebody has an argument about, well, I don't like this, I don't like that. That's cool, because they're not for everyone. And so what Apple does, that I want you guys to start thinking about, is they repel as much as you attract. And that's kind of my kicker, our kicker. And we've talked about this for years in some of our workshops and stuff.
And just this idea that when you stand for, when you have brand clarity, let's say it like that, when you have brand clarity and you know you want your experience to be a certain way, the more invested you are in bringing that idea to fruition and really connecting with people in a way that, as a solopreneur, we'll dial it all the way back from Apple to solopreneurs. When you can say, I want to build a brand that aligns with I want my brand values to, align with my personal values or my guiding principles or the things that really propel me and make me feel in alignment in my life. When we build a brand around those things, then it speaks to those things in the people we're trying to attract. It also, and so those people who resonate with that, who are like, oh yeah, it's like she's in my head, that's exactly how I feel, then we're attracting the people who are attracted to the vibe that we want to bring in. Equally, that can be extremely annoying to the people that we're trying to repel, to the people who be like, who see the brand messaging or the brand experience as annoying or any list of negative things. Then they're like, I don't want to be a part of that. That's annoying, or I hate how she talks about things, or
So,
you're immediately repelling.
I just want to add to that,
Mm-hmm.
because the power in that is, or what happens with people, and throw your hands up in the air if you agree, is when somebody says that's annoying how Janine talks on her Instagram, it annoys me. And then, so if they threw the comment at her and then she sits down and says, oh my goodness, how do I fix this? Okay, so it is an absolute marketing disaster when we start to follow the leads of the wrong people. Right? But so when we are trying to market to everybody and get, in our situation, get everybody in our boats, then we'll fail, because we're attracting people who aren't there for why we're there. And so, and I've had conversations with multiple clients over the past 4 or 5 years, and they want something, and I say to them, although we're growing our business and we want more trips and we want to build that, and getting a lot of trips kind of equates to some success at some level. But then I have to say, and it hurts because you want to just be like, I'll take them and I'll change their mind. But then I have to say, I don't think I can do what you're asking. And there's a bunch of other great outfitters in Calgary, and I think if you call around, you're going to find the person for you. They're pissed when that happens. They get super mad. But so what could they do? Write a Google review that says, I tried to book a trip with them and they said they don't think they could do what I asked. Like, I write a Google review because Janine was honest with me and said, I don't think we're a good fit in coaching because I won't be able to do what you need.
Yeah. And I think it matters so much because we sometimes, out of desperation or first starting our businesses, back to that solopreneur, we're desperate for the work or for the experience. So we say yes to things. And even as I'm saying this, I think there's actually some value in, there is value, not some value. There is value in doing or working with these people to see exactly what we don't want to attract. It's almost like you have to go through the, shooting the wedding for the client that you knew wasn't a fit and was asking for all this, like, I remember the first wedding client I for lack of a better word, let go of, because they were asking me to shoot this like fashion forward magazine type flashy, and that was like into the process when I realized
flash photography,
the flash, like massive, everything needed flash. And I was like, that's not what I do. That's not even remotely close to what I do. And they were trying to book my largest package. And for multiple days. And I thought, do I try to figure this out? Do I try? And nothing about that was in alignment with my zone of genius, with what it is I bring to the table, with the impact that I can have. And so what I understood is, I'm not willing to put the energy into going through this whole process and setting both of us up for failure at the end, because I know that that's not what I bring to the table. That's not the ideal client that I want to serve. And so then I had to, move through that process, and it all worked out fantastic because I said, and I think this is important. I said no to it, and I was, sad about the income loss, for total transparency. And then I thought, oh, maybe that would have grew me. let it go. What it did was open up space for a beautiful wedding to come in, for the right clients to come in. And we ended up doing something that was completely in alignment and wonderful, because I said no to what was not on brand. And then I continued on the process of putting out the content that I like, building a brand that did ultimately attract the right people in. So I guess it's not just about building a brand, because you're going to get people who come in and ask for something. It's you standing in the truth of your brand and saying, thank you for inquiring for XYZ, whatever it is. I'm not a fit for you. Just like you said, I can't give you what it is you need. However, and I was able to provide a couple of options of other photographers who are flash heavy and who love that, and so on and so on.
So as you move forward, you're like, what should I post? What colors should I use in my posting, my website? I need to redo my website because I'm attracting too many of these people that I'm saying no to. So when you think of your marketing as an energy budget and a financial budget, okay,
Yeah.
so if all you're doing is getting the phone calls from the wrong people, and maybe in the beginning you say yes and just do whatever because you're like, I just got to get time on water,
Yeah.
I got to get time behind the lens. And
Yep.
so you just keep saying yes, and like Janine said, and then that helps you decide what you do and don't like. But then when we talk branding and we talk about your vibe attracting your tribe, and your tribe is your 5 people, and your group, your culture and all that stuff goes forward out of this, and
Yep.
the 5 people that you spend time with are directly influencing and affecting your vibe, which is then attracting this tribe of people that are coming into your business.
Your
And so
experience, yeah.
so now you're like, I have a budget of energy and I have a budget of finances, and you're spending both of those without knowing you are, because in the beginning you're just like
Yeah.
I don't
Hire
have a
me.
direction. I just gotta I take photos and I
Yeah.
have cameras and I'll
Yeah.
shoot everything. So on your Instagram, you have, in a photography sense, you have a picture of, or like in guiding, it's like, I can guide you on the Athabasca. I can guide you on blah, blah, blah. I can guide you salmon
Right.
fishing. I can guide you
Or
saltwater. I can guide you.
photographers who take pictures of everything
It's
from
like a
cows
car, a
to
cow, a dog, a horse,
funerals.
a bride, a funeral.
Yeah.
And so what happens there is it is a waste of energy and finances, and your budget is blown. So we'll kind of leave it at this, because to go further and get more intimate, probably the best way is to reach out to Janine and sit down and have
Have these
have a discovery
conversations.
call as to what are you doing. But the point of this is to just give you guys some golden nuggets, but also to make you more curious. And now you're asking, I'm attracting, you're right, Dana, I've got a lot of calls from people that I'm really uncomfortable with, and I don't think that they're a right fit for me. Well, Frank, since that's our scapegoat
Frank's our
today,
guy.
what's your branding? What's the customer experience from A to Z? The people that come in say, this isn't for me, and it's annoying me, and turn their Instagram off, and then they'll probably try to attack you and make fun of you. Great. You're not for me, and you're not for me, and we're not for everyone. And that's really important to just keep reiterating, is when you can't convert a sale and you're like, oh man, how did that not happen? I'm not for them. They're not for me. Knowing you're in alignment with your integrity, your branding, your culture,
And
you
that's
still
the
couldn't
clutch.
convert them. Yeah. But
That's the
got
clutch piece. But because, and I think the last thing I want to say is, this requires you to do the work to figure out what alignment means for you, for your business. And that doesn't happen overnight, and you accept the fact that it's ever evolving and changing. But there are, some static guiding principles is the word that I'll use, that you get rooted into. And then from there, you have a really solid foundation that you then can get more clarity in how to take action in your business. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from this is, if you're surrounded with people that aren't supporting your own alignment, your own vision that you have, or if that isn't clear to you, if you're kind of like a kite in the wind, I use this example lots when I'm talking with the girls, is that you know you're called for more, you want to build the business, you want to level it up, but you're feeling kind of stuck behind something, and you're just like a kite in the wind where somebody's like, try this, try that. And you're just all over the place buying programs, asking people who you would normally not ask for their advice, getting influences from people who aren't in the same arena as you. I've had this conversation with quite a few women who get entrepreneurial advice from people who work 9-to-5 jobs, and they're not even in the arena to understand how unuseful that information is. And so when you put in the work and say, I need to know what it means for me to be in a place of alignment with my business, what feels good. And this, again, is where my desire to coach women is that as entrepreneurs, you get to choose. You get to choose. You get to design what it is you want your life to look like, and then you can build the business to fit that lifestyle. And oftentimes there's the business and people are trying to fit their lifestyle into the business, and it doesn't work that way. That's where the friction comes. So when you step back and holistically look at your life, who you surround yourself with, what you want to be focusing on, and then you come at your business from a place of personal clarity, a byproduct is brand clarity, because then you're able to say, here's how I want to show up and serve. Here's my strengths. Here's the boundaries that I'm going to keep around protecting the things that matter most to me in the lifestyle that I'm designing. And this is how my business is going to fit into my life. And I'm going to build a business that honors the things that matter to me. I'm going to bring friends in that honor what it is that matters to me. I'm going to surround myself and cultivate culture, create culture in my business to serve who it is I want to be and where it is I want to go.
Well said.
Okay, great.
And that's
that.
It's an hour and 12.
Hour and 12.
So,
excuse me.
We'll be back.
Thanks, babe.
Thanks
for chatting about this.
Yeah, deeply insightful and sometimes maybe deep and redundant, but that's how you drive a point home.
So can we go back to
know-
him just really quick? Is that okay?
Yeah, if you're comfortable being on your
Yeah. Oh, I don't know why I'm so
shimmy,
okay.
shimmy, cocoa shake.
Shimmy. Growing and changing. Number 2 is the reason, season, and a lifetime. Number 3 is that everything is temporary. Number 4 is recognizing those false summits. And number 5, branding your business in a more intentional way. So I don't feel like we had like reasons that you aren't getting the right clients is because you're not doing this. You're not
Repelling.
I think you said it.
As much as you're attracted.
As much as you attract. All right.
All right. If you want to know more.
One-on-one coaching is always an option. Bringing I always feel so bad at this part. Coming on and having these conversations with you and hoping to ignite something. And I am specifically for female entrepreneurs. A lot of it is solopreneurs, where you're starting out and you feel like you're missing, like you know you're called for more and you just can't get traction, you can't get going, and you feel so stuck. And then you'll invest in different things and try all this external stuff to make sense of it. I want to invite you to connect with me, even on a discovery call where we can talk, no obligation, but really just kind of dig in a little bit to your story, where you're at, what it is you're experiencing, and how we can work together in a way that helps you have the clarity that you need to get rid of. The whole goal is to get rid of any kind of mental clutter so that you can see and prioritize with clarity of alignment what it is you want to spend your time doing, where it is you're going, and how you want to get there in a way that really feels good. So JanineDeanna.com, that's where you can find me.
Until next time, you stay classy,
stay fit
San
and have
Diego.
fun. We both I'm Hal Johnson and I'm Joanne McLeod.
I just want to know who Frank is.
Stay classy. What did you say? Stay classy.
San Diego.
Oh, we both went.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll see you next time.